Hey everybody, Lex DeVille here, back for another lesson in advanced Upwork proposal writing. This lesson is going to be talking about the length of your proposal. So there's a lot of different thoughts on this. There's a lot of thoughts about, should I make my proposal long? Should it be short? Should it be something in between? How do I know how long to make this proposal? And I've got a few thoughts on that. I've tried a lot of different stuff, and hopefully this will help you. The main things that I can tell you, there's two things that I can tell you that I've tried. And the two ways that seem to work best for me, actually, let me put it like this. The way that works best for me for just churning out proposals, if I'm going to be applying to multiple gigs, if I see let's say I see 3 or 4 things I want to apply to in one day, which that rarely happens. Those of you who know me, I only apply to stuff when I'm 100% sure that I'm a fit. But let's say I'm applying to 3 or 4 proposals today. The length of my proposal, I'm going to want to keep it short. I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours writing proposals if I don't have to. Now, I'm not against spending hours writing a proposal if I think it's worth it. But you don't have to. And short proposals, they can do really well. I think the reason it works is just because whenever I'm using a short proposal, I do it a certain way. It's structured a certain way that I feed the client's information back to him. I build rapport really quickly. I give them a little bit about me, and then I give them a call to action, and we just draw them in. And then they can check out my profile. They can kind of explore on their own. If I put too much stuff in my proposal, then that can be a bad thing for me, because I might say something that turns off that client to me. We never get to the call, and I never get to make money. When would you not use a short proposal though? So I'm going to say probably 50 to 80% of the time. Somewhere, that's a pretty big gap or range, I know, but somewhere in that range I use short proposals. At least that's what I've done as of this year. Sometimes I use long proposals. In general, I try, if possible, to mimic the length of the client's proposal. If the client of the client's job post, if the client writes a really long job post, if they've clearly put a ton of thought and effort into this thing, then I am going to put a ton of thought and effort into my proposal before I send it to them. If they've got 20 paragraphs of job posts, I don't want to have a 1 paragraph or a 2 paragraph proposal. I want to have a 10, a 20 paragraph proposal somewhere in there. So you don't have to be the exact same amount of paragraphs as them. You don't have to be the exact same length as them. But in general, your proposal, you'll want to structure it like that person. So if they've written something really long, really detailed and well thought out, you need to be detailed also a majority of the time. That's what I've seen anyway. So they like people who are like them. And if they are someone who is writing a really long proposal, then usually it's going to benefit you to write something of a similar length. Short proposals usually work for me. I've been getting plenty of responses with short proposals. Usually I don't go for the really long detailed jobs. When someone's posting a lot of information, a lot of detail, that tells me some things about them. Usually they're more of a structured person. They want to have more control. They have all these thoughts about exactly what they want. And sometimes that's a good thing. But as a creative writer, it's not usually a good thing for me to have too much structure. So I'm looking for stuff where I can send shorter proposals and where there's less restrictions or less of them trying to control what I would do. So bottom line, I think that length of your proposal in general, let's just say in general, and a good guideline for this would be 3 paragraphs. So you've got your opening paragraph, which we'll talk about all these in a couple videos coming up, but you've got your opening paragraph, then you've got your second paragraph, and that's kind of the meat and potatoes, or where you're asked questions, and then you've got your third paragraph, which is your closing statement, which is where you just make one final statement and lead the client to a call to action. So for short proposals, you're looking at 2 to 3 paragraphs max, and then if the client has done something really detailed, put a lot of work into this thing, then make your proposal longer, address their individual questions. Always make sure you address their questions. But yeah, make it more detailed if their job post is more detailed. So they put a lot of work in, so you should put a lot of work in, so that you show them that you're on the same page and that you care. But in general, 2 to 3 paragraphs is fine. And I'll show you some structure for that. I'm going to show you a 3 paragraph structure below. I don't usually use 2 paragraphs. But there are times when I do use 2 paragraphs. So let's talk about that before we get off of this one. When would you use something less than 3 paragraphs as a proposal? Well, sometimes a job post, a lot of clients who go on Upwork, they're new there. They don't know how much detail they need to add. They haven't worked with freelancers before, so this is new to them. That doesn't mean they're a bad client. It doesn't mean they have very little money or anything like that, but they just don't know what to post. So I've seen some of these. In fact, one of the biggest gig I ever took on Upwork, the $8,000 web design gig, was the biggest single job I pulled on Upwork. And with that one, the way I got it, their initial job post was like 1 sentence. It was just something like, we need help with copywriting. So it wasn't even about web design. It turned into web design, but it was like 1 sentence. Now, a lot of people have asked me, how am I supposed to mimic their length when they only have 1 sentence? Well, sometimes I might just write 1 sentence in reply. Something like, I'm a great copywriter and I can help you with that. I'd probably try and make it more you focused, but you get the picture. But when they write something that's 1 sentence or 2 sentences or very, very short job post, it's okay to write 1 to 2 paragraphs. Just keep it as short as possible. So you don't have to be the exact length as them, but you probably don't need 3 paragraphs, maybe just 1 paragraph and then a call to action. Bottom line, keep it short when possible so that you can save yourself time, because you're going to be sending multiple proposals. You don't want to spend 2 hours on every single one. But if you find a job that's worth it, and it's a really detailed job post, go ahead and take your time writing out something longer. It can be 5 paragraphs, it can be 10, it can be 20, whatever it's going to take to show that you're you focused, that you paid attention, and that you cared about the client enough to put in the effort so that they want to give you the job. That's how you're going to get hired. That's my thoughts on the length of your proposal, and hopefully that helps you out. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the next lessons.